I'm really glad that everyone could join us here this morning to talk about how we're working with Amnesty to help them reach their next generation of supporters. There's a stat in this presentation that always gets me really excited. I'm not going to spoiler it, so if you can tell which one it is, but it's the thing that made us feel like this is a story that is worth sharing. So we thought that this is kind of something that we're seeing some real progress in and wanted to share with the wider sector because I think it's something that we all need to be thinking about. I'm going to hand over to our speakers today. So we have Jess, who is our partner strategy lead, who works with a range of our brilliant partners, including Amnesty, but also organizations like Brooke, has worked with Sense and Dementia UK and brings huge depth of expertise to this. And then Autumn is our wonderful partner at Amnesty International UK, and she's the Senior Digital Marketing Specialist for Acquisition, got the full title in there. So I'm going to hand over to both of them. I will be turning my camera off and then picking up at the end for the Q&A. So I hope everybody enjoys the session. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Ali. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining us here today. So we're going to talk to you over the next 45 minutes and tell you the story of how Forward Action partnered with Amnesty International UK to prove that the rule that you can't reach and mobilise your next generation of supporters online just isn't true anymore. And over the next little bit of time, we're going to show you how in just 4 weeks of testing, we reached 1.3 million people online, how we recruited supporters via TikTok at £6, which was 6 times cheaper than the UK sector average for the platform, how 98% of them were brand new to Amnesty, and how almost 40% were Gen Z, so 18 to 24 years old. And we're talking to you about this today because we really believe that this needs to be a strategic imperative for all of us to be trying this out and planning about how we're going to reach this next generation of supporters and being open to innovate. And we want to give you the knowledge and some confidence to go away and try this at your organisations. I want to start this session today by acknowledging that it feels like quite a different presentation that we're talking to you about. Normally, when Forward Action is presenting with one of our incredible partners, we're sharing a case study with a ton of data that's backing this up. And today's a little bit different because we're talking about an innovation area. It's something new. It's something that we've only just tested. It's very much the beginning of a journey and not the end of one. But the reason that we're here today and sharing these is because we believe we found something really exciting and we're not seeing lots of others in the sector having cracked finding and mobilising their next generation of supporters. So embedded in everything we talk to you about today is the belief that we can't stand still and continue to play by the old kind of acquisition rulebook. And if we're going to meet the huge global challenges that we as organisations are trying to tackle, then we need to bring the next generation with us as activists, as donors, and as supporters as well. So before we get into things, we'd love to do a very quick poll to see who is in the room today. So Florence should be bringing this up. We'd love to know, have you taken action to reach and mobilise your next generation of supporters online yet? You might be doing tons of it. You might have started some low-level testing. You might have done nothing. There is no wrong answer, but we love to see who's in the room. Okay, majority doing a little bit. That is great. Some people not started, and a tiny amount saying yes, we're doing lots, which is really fantastic. So thank you, everyone. That's really great to understand. So today we're going to share why innovating to do this is so critical. Sounds like lots of you understand that, are on some sort of path already. We're going to share insights of how we work together with Amnesty to recruit new supporters via TikTok and give you tips and inspiration to be able to go away and do this as well. So in this section, I'm going to start by talking about why reaching the next generation of supporters online is something that we think about a lot. This is also the point in the presentation where I need to apologise for the terribly cringe pictures of Gen Z that are throughout this deck. It's absolutely impossible to find non-cringe pictures, so we've really lent into it in this presentation. So before we talk about what is working for this new audience, we need to talk about what's not. And that means talking about what's currently working for everybody else. So on the screen here, we have the principles that underpin the simple but really effective digital mobilisation model that we've been developing at Forward Action for the last 10 years. And it's helped progressive organisations raise millions of pounds, drive thousands of campaign actions, and powered real world change, like changing laws, for example. And the strategy is really simple, that we use our values to attract new supporters, testing framings and recruitment tools to bring people closer to our causes. We make it really easy for them to take action with optimized landing pages. And then we keep in touch with these people with regular emails. We say once a week, and we use the collective power of our communities to drive real world change. And how have we been using our values to attract new supporters? Well, we've done a lot of these, which is hand raisers, and hand raisers have been incredibly effective over the last few years. So these are tools like petitions that we've put out predominantly on Facebook, and we've asked people to sign up if they agree with these value statements. And these hand raisers have really been the bedrock of digital list growth for many charities and successfully recruited subscribers at a cost-effective rate. And over the years, we've all got really good at the paid attraction or acquisition game. So petitions, hand raisers, open letters, quizzes, surveys, spin the wheel, we've optimized them to the max, but we tend to be serving these on the same platform and therefore talking to the same people as well. So time and again, we find that audiences over 50 perform the best on these kind of Facebook acquisition campaigns. They'll be more responsive, they'll be more likely to donate. So we optimize our campaigns towards them because of the pressure to get good results. And we want to get good results. And so it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. But what is the impact of talking to the same people over and over again? Well, it gets more expensive to get them to take action. And in the UK, we've gone from a median cost per subscriber or cost per lead of £2.47 in 2020 to £3.21 in 2024. So returns are diminishing, and it's becoming harder and more expensive to recruit new opt-in supporters to our communities and to our movements. And the platform that we traditionally do that on is becoming much more unreliable too. We all know this in the room, as we're all super close to this stuff, but Meta is becoming more and more of a mess, with Meta tracking changes in the UK in particular, making it really hard to find and recruit the right audiences. So it's becoming harder and harder to build our movements for change via Meta, but we've never needed these movements more. We're facing unprecedented challenges, not just as a sector, but as humankind. And from a move across many parts of the world to populist and radical right-wing politics, the ever-growing destruction of our climate, abhorrent rights abuses, we need movements more than ever. But the good news is that there is a younger audience who are looking to make real positive change in the world. They're using new channels and want to interact with charities in different and new ways, which is really exciting if we can adapt to those trends. Young audiences do give to charity, even if they have less disposable income compared to older generations. And that is something that is contrary to what the sector rulebook might have traditionally said. But according to a Blackboard study last year, 84% of Gen Z support causes in some way. There are differing trends in how that support shows up compared to older generations, but it's about understanding where this audience are and down to us to meet them and inspire them to take action. What's even more exciting is that studies show that actually this new generation could be even more generous. We know that Gen Z are highly motivated to donate by urgency and authenticity. And in Blue State's recent giving report, it showed that in the UK, Gen Z and millennials are twice as likely to donate to education, human rights and refugee-related causes than the national average. So there is a huge amount to feel positive about if you can connect to this younger audience in the right way. And there are other behaviours that set this audience apart too. So according to WaterAid and a poll they did of UK adults, 77% of Gen Z have taken action because of something an influencer posted, which is a huge statistic. And WaterAid know a thing or two about harnessing the power of influencers, with the incredible success recently of Team Water and Mr. Beast, where they raised $40 million in just 1 month. So here is an example of where we can see the impact that influencers and gamification are having on fundraising amongst young people in the digital space. And financial generosity is becoming much more social, more immediate, and more digital as well. So why does connecting with this next generation of supporters matter? Well, because a strong base of younger supporters will amplify your influence, your reach, and your impact. And it's literally about future-proofing our ability to do the work and tackle the big threats to humanity and social justice issues of our time. So to recap why we're talking to you today, we know we need to include the next generation of supporters in our movements. Importantly, data shows us that the next generation of supporters want to support causes in a host of ways, and they're waiting to be inspired. But we also know that traditional paid platforms and tools are providing diminishing returns and uncertainty. So charities that can adapt to these patterns have the opportunity to unlock new streams of support in the long term, which is really exciting.
Hi everyone, so now I'm going to talk a bit more about what we did to reach Amnesty UK's next generation of supporters online. So our brief to forward action aimed to address some of the key challenges which Jess has outlined, and the opportunities as well. So as part of our supporter acquisition programme, over the years we've tested lots of new engagement tools like quizzes and hand raisers, and these performed well initially. But we saw that as the market became more saturated with these types of tools, we saw diminishing returns and CPLs rise. And we also knew that we needed to reduce our over-reliance on Meta because of the rapid pace of change in the digital world that Jess has outlined on platforms like Meta and Google Ads. We always need to be testing new platforms and growing our supporter lists to keep our programs resilient. And then the other thing was that as an organization, we recognized that in the attention economy, we're competing against corporations and anti-rights groups that are investing in awareness and influence on digital channels at scale. So in order to sustainably grow our movement, we need to raise awareness, change attitudes to human rights, and focus on young audiences under 25s. So Amnesty UK has always been a charity which mobilises young people through our human rights education programme and youth network. But in a world where people spend so much of their time online, paid digital marketing is a key tool for us to reach and engage young people. And it's more important than ever to invest in innovation and testing and learning to stay ahead of trends. So the brief for this piece of work was to stand out from the crowd. We wanted to make an innovation an objective from the start, which I think really helped the forward action team feel comfortable taking calculated risks and coming to us with new and different ideas. And we also knew we wanted to test an engagement tool. We also knew we wanted an engagement tool that could engage younger audiences. And we wanted to set benchmarks for TikTok as an acquisition channel to diversify our platform mix away from Meta and move towards an omni-channel approach. So why TikTok? Even though we knew that the sector cost per lead benchmarks were high for this channel, we identified TikTok as a channel we wanted to test. So TikTok now has an average monthly usage time worldwide, which is higher than any other platform, with Instagram coming fourth, just behind Facebook. The average monthly usage is over 34 hours, so nearly 1.5 days a month. So we know that people use the platform a lot. And we also knew that the advertising potential for our target audience on the platform is huge. So the 16 to 34 age group represents over 60% of the advertising audience on TikTok. And this is an audience we hadn't yet tapped into, and it's a big opportunity for us and every charity to reach young people with content and asks.
So the elephant in the room became how much could it cost for us to recruit a supporter via TikTok for Amnesty? And the sector rulebook said it would cost a huge amount, maybe not 17 million, but benchmarks in the US said a TikTok lead would cost $17.40. And in the UK, the sector benchmark said £39. So the question became, how much might Amnesty be willing to pay for an email opt-in? And would it still be worthwhile to recruit an email opt-in to steward their movement? So the short answer is yes. So according to Campaign Monitor, 81% of Gen Z who were surveyed said they check their emails at least once a day, with over 50% reporting that they check it at least 3 times a day. So email can still be an incredibly important channel for communicating with your next generation of supporters. The important thing is giving people something of value in that weekly email or in that weekly communication that you're sending to them.
So email remains a critical way to steward your movement and achieve real-world impact. And there are lots of examples from Amnesty globally that prove that mobilising your crowd of supporters to take action can achieve big things. So like mobilising thousands of our supporters for targeted letter writing campaigns and petitions to help win back people's freedoms. So we knew we wanted to test and set benchmarks for supporter recruitment on TikTok, as that's where our target audience spends a lot of time. We also knew we wanted our overall call to action to be sign up and opt in to Amnesty's movement. So now we just needed to create a tool that would enable us to mobilise our next generation of supporters. So we knew that the hook for our tool was going to be really important. A hook for both the tool that you want to go out to your audience with and how you promote it with ads requires a strong topical issue area that sparks an emotion. So we landed on facial recognition technology. Facial recognition is a technology which matches captured images with other facial images held in databases or secretive watch lists. And law enforcement agencies use this software in combination with CCTV to search for potential matches. These systems of mass surveillance are highly intrusive and violate a few different human rights. The right to privacy, they threaten the right to protest and freedom of expression, and the right to equality and non-discrimination. Since 2021, Amnesty International US have been running a global campaign to ban the use of facial recognition systems on our streets. It's largely used without safeguards or regulation and has been shown to be riddled with racial bias. So here in the UK, Amnesty is campaigning against the use of facial recognition technology on the streets of Britain. There have also been recently lots about facial recognition technology in the news, as Croydon in South London became the first location in the UK to have permanent and fixed live facial recognition cameras on the high street, which scanned thousands of faces every day. So we had our hook and our way in.
So our brief was to tailor our engagement tool concept to reach and appeal to a social first and younger audience. So together we developed the concept for the Identity Check Challenge. We will stop for a play break in a few minutes and allow everyone to take the challenge. But the tool basically invites users to test their ability to remember faces in a crowd. So it takes inspiration from the issue of facial recognition technology. But instead of talking to people straight away about the issue area, we know from years of working on attraction tools that we needed to go one step removed and come up with a journey that takes people from an emotion in the ads to a fun challenge to that pivot moment when we take them back to the issue area and we talk about Amnesty's work and the issue of live facial recognition technology. So going back to our original digital mobilisation approach, we want to attract people and make it easy for them to take action with us. So we designed and we tested the tool with UX and supporter journey front of mind, ensuring it was interactive and mobile first as well. So we created video ads that asked people to take the challenge. We then took them off app to an external landing page. Once they'd taken the challenge, but crucially before we gave them their results, we presented information about live facial recognition technology and asked them to sign a petition to say they agreed there's no place for it on UK streets. We then asked them to opt into Amnesty's email list and also their WhatsApp community as well, to hear more from them and take future actions to power campaigns. We were testing WhatsApp stewardship as another part of this innovation project, which is a whole other talk that we could talk about. But we don't have time for it today. So we then gave people their results and asked anyone who hadn't signed up before to sign up again. And then we asked people to share the tool and to donate in that immediate user journey. And this is the pivot and call to action in full. And I wanted just to spend a moment talking through this slide, because we know from years of testing with engagement tools that they really do live or die on the ability to inspire people to take action and sign up and to take people from the fun challenge or game or whatever it might be to the issue that you're talking about. So it says, before you get your score, the game you just played is based on real facial recognition technology the police are using in the UK right now. Every day, thousands of us are scanned by this tech as we go about our daily lives. Your face could be being watched and processed as you shop, commute, or see your friends. And methods to identify you include using images scraped from social media without consent, as well as AI that's riddled with racial bias. Then the call to action is, if you want to protect our right to privacy in public, add your name now to demand a ban on facial recognition technology. Yes, add my name, no, sorry. And then we also had this cool little live tracker of where facial recognition technology had been used recently in the UK and how many faces it had scanned at the event it was being used at. And that's just publicly available information. And yeah, super scary if you want to look it up. So we had a tool that was compelling, but we needed to get it in front of our target audience successfully. So here are a couple of shots of our filming day in Croydon in London. This felt really appropriate because of what Autumn said around Croydon being that area in the UK where the police had installed a permanent facial recognition camera. And before we show you a quick examples of the ads themselves, I just wanted to say a quick note on how we set up the ad campaign. So we optimized our ads to in-feed and used lead gen as our conversion metric. You can use TikTok lead gen forms, which are much like Meta lead gen forms. But as we needed to take people off app, we didn't use them this time. But please shout, I'd love to chat to anyone that has used them and tested them and had any kind of success.
Okay, I think Jez is going to press play.
Yes, and I think I might have fallen down at the first hurdle and not shared my sound. So Autumn, can you let me know if this doesn't play out loud and I will reshare my screen?
It's like people in a sardine tin.
All good.
Okay, great.
Definitely her.
That one. Yeah.
Is your memory better than a machine? Play the game to find out.
I mean, where do you start?
I actually feel like I did see him. But I'm probably wrong.
Okay, 40%, not too bad. So you know what? You did actually beat facial recognition technology because it can be up to 95% inaccurate. What? Not good odds.
About as pointless a technology as you can have, isn't it?
Now it's your turn. Take the challenge to see if you can beat facial recognition technology.
There we go.
You think it was her?
Can't skim it all.
You're the first one to get it right today.
No way!
Did you know that facial recognition technology is live in Croydon all the time? Well, we're here to see how easy it is to recognise a face. Can you remember a face you've only seen once?
Yeah, I have ADHD, so my memory's not that great.
Up for the challenge?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. We need you to tell us who dropped the cap that you picked up earlier.
Why is this so much harder than I thought it was going to be? Okay.
Oh, styling. Yeah, I think it was her.
Let's try this one. This one? No?
That's not right. You think you're right?
Yeah, I think I know I'm right.
He's wrong.
Oh, what?
Now it's your turn. Test your memory and play the game now.
Great. So as you can see, we decided to test two different framings for our ads. The first video framing asked members of the public to interact with the identity check challenge on the street, and we filmed their reactions. And in the other, we did a skit where one of the team members dropped their hat on the road. We filmed members of the public picking it up and returning it to us. And we then asked these unsuspecting members of the public to pick who they just returned the hat to out of a lineup of people. And we filmed their attempts to do this, and hardly anyone got it right. So this was really effective at highlighting how difficult it is to remember a face and how easy it is to inaccurately identify someone. The videos are presenter-led videos, so the presenters presenting, but we also have lots of action taking place to capture attention and keep viewers engaged, whether it was interviewing or taking part in the hat job game. And you don't need big budgets to produce this kind of content. You could do it on a shoestring with a member of staff and vox pops in the street, with the important caveat that the staff member knows how to be an effective spokesperson and they're comfortable and natural in front of the camera. So you can try different hooks out and see what works for you.
Okay, we're now going to pause for a couple of minutes to allow everyone to have a go at the identity check challenge. So you can scan the QR code on screen. I think Florence is going to put a link to the tool as well in the chat if that works better for you. But we're going to pause for a couple of minutes for you to have a go and to experience it, and then we will bring you back in 2 minutes' time. Please post your scores in the chat as well. We would love to know how people do. No shade as well, if you do poorly. Congrats, Hannah. And Georgia as well. Okay, some people are getting super high scores. That's great. Okay. 20% for Tom. Okay, fab. A real range. And yeah, that just gives you an idea of how the tool works. Hopefully you can go on the supporter journey as well, so you can see how all of the asks interact with each other, and how, yeah, the supporter journey works. So there was tons to celebrate in the project in terms of innovation, as I mentioned, WhatsApp stewardship, and also, of course, using TikTok as an acquisition channel. But we also know that the cold hard stats and the results are really important too. So the Identity Check Challenge achieved a 6 times cheaper cost per lead on TikTok than the sector average. So if you remember, the UK benchmark is £39, and that's according to M&R, the latest M&R benchmark study. We were able to recruit new TikTok leads at £6. And I want to say at this point that we know that £6 as a cost per lead is too high and not what any of us want to be paying for an opt-in to our organisation's lists. But the point is that this testing has given us something to work with and to build on and to move forwards with, which is, yeah, an exciting place to be starting. This is the stat I believe that Ali gets really excited by, but 98% of the audience that we recruited through TikTok were brand new to Amnesty. So that means they'd never opted into the organisation's email or WhatsApp list before, meaning that we were paying to reach a totally new audience and not paying to re-engage and re-opt in an existing one, which we know can pose a lot of problems on Meta when we're running acquisition campaigns. We also recruited a more gender equal audience through the channel as well. So on traditional Meta campaigns, we often see audiences skew quite heavily towards older generations and women. This was more almost 50-50 between men and women recruited, and 40% of our recruited audience were Gen Z. And whilst the overall goal was to recruit new supporters to Amnesty's email and WhatsApp lists, we know that the top of funnel engagement metrics are really important when thinking about this audience as well, and really helps us to analyse performance. So our cost per click was 18p. That was the lowest of any platform we tested on, because we did test the tool across other platforms as well, which Autumn will touch on in a moment. We had over 4,000 likes, 50 people shared the ads, and Amnesty gained 189 new TikTok followers, so really helping to grow their movement on the channel as well. And comment sentiment and comments were really interesting as well. So TikTok Ads Manager told us that we had overall 77% neutral comments, which was their wording. Neutral comments were mainly people sharing scores, talking about how they couldn't recognise faces, but there were also some really interesting comments in there with people talking about other policing procedures, like lineups, for example, and then some commenting to say that they had signed up to Amnesty as a result of the tool. And as you may be wondering, this TikTok audience did seem to want to donate as well, which is really exciting. So we asked users to donate in that immediate supporter journey after they'd taken the challenge. So unfortunately, we don't have the data to show what we'd love to show you, which is that the audience on TikTok donated at the highest rates, because we weren't able to track donations. But what we did see is that the TikTok audience drove the most views of the donate slide compared to audiences from Facebook and Instagram. So showing us that this audience remained engaged and in the supporter journey, but also that TikTok users delivered the highest click to donate rate as opposed to any other channel we tested on. So their click to donate rate was 5.1% as opposed to 3.4% average we had across the other channels. So they clicked to say they would donate at a higher rate than any other channel. And 25% of this TikTok audience shared the tool on social as well. You're on mute, Autumn.
Oh, sorry. So this was the very start of our testing, and there are definitely things we do differently next time. So we're working on relaunching the tool for further testing at the moment, and the key learnings from our first round of testing were to optimize the opt-ins on the form. We've also updated the custom WhatsApp journey, which follows on from the tool with content that's relevant to the audiences we brought in, including our automated racism campaign, which targets predictive policing systems in the UK. And for further testing, we're looking into potentially testing Snapchat to continue our work to diversify away from Meta and reach young audiences.
So we've talked through what we created and what we achieved. We now want to be able to give you a template for trying it as well. And it's worth saying that every organisation will have a different journey. What will work for one organisation won't work for another. We're all working across different causes. But these steps will hopefully give you a template to follow and to try things out. But before we get into that, I just wanted to share this reminder that the goal isn't simply to be on social, it's to get people off social and onto your contactable list, into your movement. So these are the 4 steps to follow to reach your next generation of supporters online. And this is based on Forward Action's tried and tested approach to innovation projects such as this. And we adapt it based on our partners' objectives, but these steps really are our guiding principles. So the first is knowing your values, your issues, and where that overlaps with your audience. The second is developing your concept and hook. Thirdly, your channel-specific promotional strategy. And fourth, testing and, importantly, iterating and optimizing. It's very tempting to jump in at step 2 and developing your concept and hook, but your pivot will be so much stronger if you're clear from the outset about the values you want to share and put out there and the people that you want to attract. So starting here really sets your campaign up for success. But then you can move into concept and hook development. And we know from years of testing and gathering insights how important this stage is. The hook and concept must be designed with grabbing attention in mind of your target audience. And as I mentioned, the concept needs to take people on a journey from an emotion like curiosity or anger or shock to that pivot moment when you ask them to take action. And attraction tools are really great when they offer something of value, such as a challenge like we did, or a personal insight or entertainment. And engagement tools, when they're designed with all of this in mind, are really excellent for targeting and converting new audiences.
So Forward Action ran a collaborative ideation session with our marketing and digital campaigning teams to come up with our hook. And they facilitated the session, setting out key principles for effective engagement tool concepts and generating initial ideas. Getting the team in the space to ideate like this was one of my favorite parts of the project, and it gave us a broad range of ideas from which to narrow down on the final concepts. So to find your compelling hook and to help think about potential hooks, you can ask, what are we working on right now? What's in the public's consciousness? What do our target audience care about? What is a cultural moment or news story we could react to? And what sparks anger, curiosity, or hope? So now I'll talk through our channel-specific promo strategy. So the first step in a channel-specific promo strategy is media planning. Put together a multi-channel media plan guided by your audience objectives and KPIs, and produce channel-specific creative with best practice and previous campaign learnings in mind. Then you can test and iterate across channels to establish what works for each one. We know that the typical user journey involves 5 to 6 digital touch points. So aim to scale up to a multi-channel or omni-channel campaign to cut through and drive engagement. When media planning, set out your testing hypotheses. So what do you want to learn and what are you A/B testing? We started off for this campaign with a minimal budget, but enough to give us significant learnings on what was working, and then increase spend as we learned from the data, which helped to make the most of our budget. Cool. So once you have your media plan, then you can go into creative production. We know that content is the most important factor in a campaign's success, and you need to take a channel-specific approach, not repurposing content, but creating it with the channel and the audience for that channel in mind. For TikTok, we knew we need to produce content that felt native and authentic to the platform. From our organic social testing, we've found time and again that human-centered videos which use humor and current trends, focus on human connection, or felt like a conversation rather than a polished brand advert performed best for short-form content. And the target demographic under 25s are really tuned into trends and in authenticity. So the tone of the content had to be right.
And finally, step number 4 is testing and iterating or optimizing. So once you're live with a project like this, it's really important to meet regularly to discuss the results that you're seeing and the analysis and the insights that you have from the data, and crucially to act on them and optimize. So we checked in on ads more regularly, every couple of days, but meeting more formally once a week enables you to do things like tweak your audience targeting, identify pain points in the journey and drop off in the journey, spot audience behaviors and trends, all with the aim of maximizing your testing budget. Obviously, more than ever in acquisition projects, we allow the platform algorithms to kind of do their thing and show us the results and the data. And it's great that we're guided by that, but we need to be ready to react to the data that we're seeing as well, and thinking about continuous optimization to maximize budgets and results as well.
So many charities can be risk averse, especially in an economic climate, which means budgets are tight and we're often required to show immediate ROAS. So I'm lucky that at Amnesty UK, we've taken steps towards embracing risk, but I know that that can be quite rare. So something that I've found helpful internally to get buy-in is this reframing of testing. It can be really important to get buy-in at all levels and from across teams. So you can frame innovation as testing to answer a question in a low stakes way. I think it can be helpful to emphasize that not testing is the biggest risk to the program. It's not an additional nice to have, it's crucial to the success of your digital marketing. And if we in progressive organizations don't get there first, someone else will, and they'll get ahead of the trend, gather learnings, and run smarter digital advertising campaigns. So some practical things to put in place for testing and learning. You can put together an organization-wide paid marketing best practice guide, which can be updated as test results come in, with a record of every test and its result. Keep up the momentum with regular digital marketing brainstorms for new test ideas, and keep a pipeline of tests ready. You should also make looking at past tests a key part of your campaign planning to embed a data-driven approach, and share results and case studies in wider team spaces, particularly if they were interesting in some way or successful, to establish buy-in. So these are 5 key lessons from this campaign to achieve a sector-leading cost per lead on TikTok. So 1, it's a good idea to lead with intrigue, humor, and human interaction. You've only got a few seconds to capture your audience's attention, so you should focus on entertaining your audience and you can get to the serious stuff later. I've seen a few questions in the chat about this. So there's restrictions on explicit political advertising on the channel, which can be a challenge. I think this is also an opportunity to come at your issue area in a different way. Our best performing ads didn't reference facial recognition tech at all. So it doesn't work to do the rational, complex, technical videos that human rights organizations and other organizations can sometimes be guilty of. So it's a chance to engage a new audience in a different way. 2, our best performing ad was 20 seconds long. So you need to keep TikToks short. 3, because the opening is so important, you should test different triggers and emotions that you're trying to generate with each opening and iterate from there. 4, don't forget sound. So sound is just as important as visuals in TikTok ads, and 88% of TikTok users say sound is vital to their experience. And number 5 is include a clear call to action that encourages users to do something. And this needs to be clear in your copy, buttons, and script as well.
So to close, and I feel like that has flown by, but yeah, we will take questions in a second. But just to close here, the next generation want to fix the problems that we're looking to solve as a sector. But right now, many of us are guilty of kind of ignoring and overlooking them as supporters and viable supporters for our causes. So it's time to start testing and planning to mobilise them so that you can work together to make change happen quicker now, but also win long-standing support for the future as well. Thank you. And I will stop sharing and we will move to a Q&A because I can see lots of stuff has been flying in, but thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Jess and Autumn. I hope everyone found that inspiring and interesting, and judging by the number of brilliant questions we've got, everyone's very engaged with this and keen to learn more. So we do have questions. And I think the first one that's come up several different ways is around TikTok's policy on social issues and political advertising. So it'd be great to know, how do you navigate those restrictions in your campaign, and what's the ad approval process like, and especially for content that could be seen as political or aimed at policymakers?
Yeah, I think I touched on that in the last few slides. I think like it can be quite restrictive, the policy on TikTok, and that's one of the limitations of the channel, is that there is those quite tight restrictions in terms of ad policy for political content. But I think, as I was kind of touching on before, I think it's an opportunity to think about how you do your campaigns differently, and really like leading with entertaining the audience, and then following up with the serious campaigning issues. So yeah, I think that found that really interesting that our best performing video didn't reference facial recognition. So yeah, it's I think an opportunity to think about how you lead with entertaining your audience, and that kind of content performs better on the channel as well. Jess, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that's why engagement tools can work so well, because they require us to go one step removed from an activism or advocacy ask. And I think it's really possible to get to work around these things by keeping messaging really values based. So community impact and hope, rather than explicitly political, as you've said, Autumn. But I think also just to say that like organic content and influencer partnerships remain really viable routes for cause related messaging as well on TikTok. We didn't do that as part of this testing, but absolutely is really viable on the channel.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that leads to a couple of questions that I will join together around the creative route and the creative approach. So the first one is that Amnesty, obviously you have a huge range of topics that you cover. And do you think this would have been successful for another issue? I know there was a lot of thinking about what was the right topic to pull out. So I guess, do you think the topic had any influence at all? And the second part of that question is that for some organizations, an example given here is a cause related to baby loss, it wouldn't feel tonally appropriate to do such a kind of fun tool. And is there any kind of suggestions or recommendations for how they could approach that? So how much does the topic play an impact? Why did we go facial recognition over other things that Amnesty do? And how could it be adapted for a slightly more heavy hitting topic?
Yeah, I think so something that we didn't include in the workshop, but was part of this project, was testing different concepts and different issue areas as part of our minimum viable product testing. So facial recognition was one of those issue areas that we pulled out and tested against some other issue areas. We also tested economic, social, and cultural rights with a rights move concept. So I think, that is something to note, I suppose, that if you're wanting to gain some data on what kind of issue areas cut through, then you can always test different concepts against each other. I think we're lucky that we've got quite a broad range of different campaigning areas to draw from. But I think, yeah, the topics that like Amnesty often works on are also quite sensitive, and it would be easy to run a tone deaf campaign if we're trying to use humor and bring in like fun elements. I think finding that balance can be really effective at cutting through. I think as well, if you decide that you don't want to go the route of humor and that there isn't a way for you to balance that, you can look into human connection and feeling like it's a conversation rather than like a polished kind of advert, and going down that kind of route, which can cut through on TikTok as well. Did you have anything, Jess?
Yeah, just that I think that would definitely require a different approach and tone. But I think there's a lot of transferable thinking about what's that step removed from the action or message that you want people, well, yeah, the action that you want people to take. And you can think about different routes into that. So maybe there is a shocking stat that you want to share, or you could go down a more empathetic approach where you can bring storytelling and solidarity to the forefront of videos as well. But it's about that connection and eliciting an emotion of some kind. But of course, yeah, it can't always be humor.
Brilliant. Thank you both. And we've got some very practical questions and clarifying questions around kind of this cost per lead and the ad spend. So what exactly does that cost per lead cover? Why is TikTok so expensive in comparison to Meta? And is that based on solely ad spend, or does that include creative? And is there a minimum that people should be looking to spend for a campaign like this to get testing? So all things cost per lead.
I can kick us off on that one. So the cost per lead is based on ad spend. Yeah, so that's what that's based on and what it costs to get somebody to opt in. I saw there was a question as well around why we didn't ask for opt-in at the point of signing the petition. We did have, that was where the opt-in was. So we asked people to sign, and then there were the opt-in boxes for both email and WhatsApp. We started with very minimal spend for the testing. As I said, we only did 4 weeks, and in total, I think we ended up spending around £1,000 on TikTok for our testing, and that started small, and then we optimized the budget as we went to put more money behind the audiences that were performing better. So we did test different audiences on TikTok. That's something to note as well. So we tested broad, we tested a charity interest audience as well. Yeah, Autumn, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else on the setup questions at all.
I think that covers everything. Is there anything I've missed, Ali? We've missed, Ali.
There's the question about why is TikTok so much more expensive than Meta, which is a big one.
Yeah.
£9.50.
I think it relates to some of the like earlier stats that we were looking at in the deck around the audience. So we know that TikTok has a much younger audience, and they might not be at the stage in their journey yet to donate. So I think, yeah, it relates to like the demographics that you see on the platform. But when we're thinking about the sustainability of our fundraising long term, that's an audience that we need to be talking to. Yeah, don't know if you have anything else to add, Jess.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the audience, but also we know that people want to stay in-app on TikTok as well. So we were, it was a challenge because we were asking people to come off app, and that's where we were asking them to opt in. But we know that on channels like Instagram and TikTok as well, people prefer to stay within the app and that environment. So yeah, getting people to opt in through that mechanism is more of a challenge than on your traditional channels like Facebook, where people are very used to going off and doing things on other landing pages and for charities as well.
I think that's really interesting, relating to kind of how Facebook started as a web page and moved to an app, whereas TikTok and Instagram started as apps, and they're very much self-contained environments that don't want you to go elsewhere. So TikTok is having to kind of unpick that to make itself a viable advertising platform as well. They want advertising to work because that brings in the revenue. It's just kind of working out how does that work with user behavior as well. So this is kind of all learnings that everyone is doing together, which is interesting. Okay, we have time for one more conjoined question, which is kind of, I think, relates to organizations that might feel like they're a little bit smaller than Amnesty and don't quite have the kind of potential reach or the resources that you have. So the question one is, does having a big TikTok following and reach help compared to being a new audience, new charity on the platform? And also for charities that really struggle to get video content together, is that going to be a limiting factor for them? Is there any recommendations you have for organizations who don't find it easy to get that video content?
Yeah, I think it's quite, like we kind of touched on in the slides, I think you could produce this kind of video content on a small budget with a staff member. You wouldn't need to work with a presenter or a production company. So like that could be done with quite a small budget. I think it's just important to make sure that the person that you choose for the spokesperson is comfortable and natural in front of the camera and kind of understands the channel as well and what cuts through. Yeah. And then the first part of the question was around not video content, but
do you have to have an existing account and reach in order to make the advertising work?
It does help to have an organic reach and to build that and I would recommend building that on the channel. It's also, you're not investing when you're building your organic channels. I think makes sense to do that before investing in paid.
And I think that, they work, paid and organic can work side by side and should work side by side. And obviously with the paid side of things, we were trying to get opt-ins to Amnesty's movement, but organic, I love Amnesty's TikTok account because that's so useful for the kind of reach and narrative change, attitudinal change piece of work that you're trying to do and that awareness raising. So I think they can both work really well in collaboration with each other.
And I think the thing that I find very exciting about TikTok, which is not a sentence I say very often, but is the fact that actually it's again a democratization of information sharing. Like you don't need to have a high production value for your videos. Actually, if you have a team, if you have someone within your team who is comfortable being in front of the camera, that is kind of one of the main things that you need. And it's identifying who are those people who are naturally enthusiastic about this stuff. Are there people in your team who are already active on TikTok and not necessarily in a marketing role or something, but people who are willing to kind of be the face and put together those videos? Because actually, like, millions of people are doing this without having big video production budgets. It doesn't need to be the level of content that you would have expected to have like a DRTV campaign or something. So actually it should be a lot easier for small organizations to start to get their message out there as well without having those big budgets.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might be worth mentioning that at Amnesty UK, we often film on an iPhone for TikTok because that's what users expect on the channel. So yeah, you don't need expensive camera equipment or AV.
Yeah, you can get a microphone for £30 or something off the internet and have that ready to go and empower your team to be kind of going and telling those stories. And actually it can be a really fun kind of, if you have any team days or strategy days, it could be really fun to get people together and think about what are the stories we can be telling on this and kind of crowdsourcing that content and giving people an opportunity to think about how they talk about their work and what's going to be interesting to it. And that's quite a fun workshop that we run as well. Okay. I think that takes us very close to 10 o'clock, and we said we'd be wrapping up by 10 o'clock at least. So I'm going to wrap up now. We will be sharing a recording of the webinar. We'll also review all of these questions because there's a couple that we didn't get to, and put together a bit of a Q&A blog post that we will share, as well as the slides and the recording. So there is everything there. And if you want to talk about any of this, please do reach out to me or to Jess or to Autumn. We would love to discuss more. Like we said, this is the start of the journey. we think we can get better than £6 cost per lead, but we are very excited to see how much better that is than kind of where the sector average is, and the kind of improvements incrementally that we've been seeing with the campaign work we've been doing as well. So we wanted to share that with the wider sector to hope that we can all move forward together. Okay, have a great day, everyone, and speak to you soon. Bye.